a new thing that's called the origin of petroleum. And about this, you might have heard of this origin of petroleum. It's very common understanding that the petroleum generally originated from the fossils or from the remainings of the organic materials like plants or animals. So plants and animals died and they sunk to the ocean bottom, and they generally form petroleum or they generally form a natural gas and oil. That you know. But let me tell you, at this point, when you were at PG, वो बोलते थे हम लोग स्कूल में, लेकिन अभी क्या बोलेंगे? Then here I will be discussing all the possibilities, all the theorem, all the theories related to the origin of petroleum. जितना सिंपल वो हम लोग समझते थे ड्यूरिंग आवर स्कूल टाइम, इट्स नॉट एज सिंपल एज इट लुक लाइक्स. सो प्लांट एंड एनिमल से हो सकता है, बट यू हैव टू कंसीडर ऑल द पॉसिबिलिटीज. So how you can classify or how you can understand the origin of petroleum? So it will have, there are two beliefs, there are two schools, there are several theorems. That one school believes that the petroleum generally originated, it has a inorganic origin. Okay, this screen is visible to everyone. Is this visible to everyone? Okay. And another school believe that the petroleum generally developed from the organic one, and this school or this organic one is more acceptable till date, but you cannot deny these inorganic evidences. So one by one I will explain. First one is the inorganic origin. So at one time during the origin of the when people are start understanding the petroleum and its origin, then they have two beliefs. One is inorganic, another one is organic. So this origin time or origin of petroleum is very much controversial. So one school believe that the petroleum originated due to the chemical reaction. Okay, it happened, the petroleum, so I'm talking about the inorganic one. According to the inorganic origin, they believe that it basically developed from the inorganic substances, like it's coming out from the volcano, from the magma or from the volcanoes. It's derived from magma, or it's derived from the lava. Okay, so the petroleum originated due to the chemical reaction, and they are telling you at that time they were saying that there might be some chemical reaction which basically creates petroleum from magma or from hot viscous lava. Okay, so according to this school, according to this belief, they believe that the volcanic eruptions at different chemical reaction may give rise. So two things are they are considered, that volcanic reactions are happening or volcanic eruptions are happening, and in that volcanic eruption some kind of chemical reactions are happening. Okay, and these reactions are giving you the petroleum. For an example, due to the reaction, maybe chemistry people can tell me that due to the reaction of water on calcium carbide acetylene, a kind of hydrocarbon can be produced. In your inorganic chemistry, you might have heard that you can also develop some hydrocarbon material from by using inorganic material. Is it possible, right? Inorganic material यूज करके हाइड्रोकार्बन हम लोग डेवलप कर ही सकते हैं, वो केमिस्ट्री में हम लोग पढ़े हैं. So this was one belief, but this was not a strong one. Okay, in the laboratory it has been possible to produce oil from the inorganic substances. In the laboratory, people has proved that you can produce oil. Oil means natural oil. Okay, not the mustard oil kind. So they have produced oil from the inorganic substances, and by this means, it is very possible to produce some amount of oil from inorganic substances. But हम लोगों का क्वेश्चन है, तो इतना लार्ज वॉल्यूम क्यों? तो इतना लार्ज वॉल्यूम का जो ऑयल हम लोग पेट्रोलियम एक्सट्रैक्ट करते हैं, तो वो कैसे आता है? So why the volume of any petroleum reservoir is a very large volume? Why? The question resides here that why it's happening. So this belief, this inorganic belief was so several laboratory experiment they have they were clever enough to produce oil from, I mean natural oil from inorganic substances, but there the amount would be very small, and which will not be justifying, which is not justifying the reservoir volume of petroleum. Okay, so in recent time, Thomas Gould, there is another scientist, has revived the inorganic origin of petroleum, and according to him, that from the earliest time there is an inexhaustible store of hydrocarbon in the interior of the earth. He is assuming that there could be a storage of hydrocarbon inside the earth. Okay, and initially when the earth was very hot and liquid state, millions of meteors showered on the earth, and they basically created the hydrocarbon. And he has specified some locations. He has specified some location in the Soviet region, where the Soviet geologists, to prove it, started digging 50 kilometers in the Kola Peninsula. Okay, Swedish geologists also believes this theory, and they start digging, because science में क्या, without experiment तुमको मालूम नहीं चलेगा. So they also start digging 240 kilometers from the Stockholm, and अगर मिल जाता है तो अच्छा बात है, लेकिन अभी तक मिला नहीं है. So at this point you can neglect this inorganic beliefs. ऐसे ही खारिज नहीं कर सकते हो ना, उसको सपोर्ट में तुमको पॉइंट देना पड़ेगा. But most of the scientists believe that petroleums are originated from organic remains. So the other school believes in the organic origin of oil and natural gases. So there are several evidences. One by one I will discuss. What are the evidences in support of organic origin? So first one is that, first point they have presented that the petroleum contains small amount of several material which can only be obtained from organic material. Means केवल मात्र organic material से ही वही चीज आएगा. The chemical component, the chemical compositions you will be having, or you are having within a petroleum reservoir, that is only possible to come from the organic substances. So first argument they presented, the petroleum contains small amount of several substances that could have come only from living things. So they found some compositions. I'm writing this point, write this down, compositions from living things. Okay, so इसके अंदर में क्या क्या आता है? So some example of this belief or this proof is that, first one is that the polarization of light. You might have read this part in your physics. Physics में तो पढ़े होंगे कि polarization क्या होता है, कि when a light is passed through a certain constituents in a petroleum or any material, then the vibration of the direction of the plane of polarization of light is changed, and in this respect there is similarity. So let me give you what is a polarization. Anyone can explain what is polarization from your optics class? What do you mean by polarization? What do you mean by polarization, class? What do you... Yes. No, explain, partially it's true, explain it with the vibration and all. Explain with respect to vibration. No. Let me tell you what do I mean by polarization. मैं बहुत सिंपल से समझा रहा हूँ इसको. स्कूल बुक में देख लेना फिजिक्स वाला. सपोज देयर इज ए ग्लास, ऐसा ही है, कोई भी ग्लास है, ओके, एंड आई एम सेंडिंग ए अनपोलराइज्ड लाइट which could be vibrate in different direction. Let's say 360 degree direction, it has vibrations, and that light will be reflected or refracted. इधर से निकल गया ऐसे करके, और it could be reflected also. मैं ड्रॉ नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ सही से. it could be reflected also like this. What happened here, mostly मैं ग्लास का ही एग्जाम्पल अभी ले रहा हूँ. द वाइब्रेशन, ये जो हर जगह तुमको वाइब्रेशन देख रहा था, सो यू हैव सपोज ए अनपोलराइज्ड लाइट विद हैव where the particle vibrates in 360 degree plane. Here your vibration will be restricted in single plane. Okay, after polarization. Okay, give me a minute. Okay. When the light is passing through a certain constituents of petroleum, the vibration direction of the plane of polarization of light is changed. Okay, if you consider a single vibration of this unpolarized light, and here you can have that if it's vibrating in this way, the vibration direction might be changing. It's called the polarization of light. In this respect, there is a similarity with some substances or animal or plant origin like plant sugar solution. What happened here? I have a sugar solution. Okay, मेरे पास शरबत है, and I have the petroleum. ये पेट्रोलियम है, नेचुरल ऑयल है, ठीक है ना. And both the cases I am using a unpolarized light, and I am seeing the polarization happening here. Polarization is natural phenomena, happens all the time, and the direction or changes in the orientation of the vibration of that particle or vibration of the plane polarization of the light changes the way it changes for sugar. So sugar के लिए जैसे change होता है, पेट्रोलियम के लिए भी ऐसे ही change होता है. So the rotation of the plane polarized vibration for sugar solution is almost similar to the petroleum solution. Okay, one argument. Second argument they have presented in support of origin of petroleum, which is organic origin, is that nitrogenous compounds contains in petroleum there is a nitrogenous compound that contains a type of chemical organic compound called porphyrin. Okay, so this is formed by the green coloring substances of the plants. Means these porphyrins can only come from the chlorophyll like substances. So green part of the plants basically creates this nitrogenous compound, okay, which is called porphyrin. And the red coloring matter of blood, like the hemin of animals and consist of complex hydrocarbon plants, originated and a red color का जो होता है, and the red coloring matter जो blood वाला matter होता है, blood red color का होता है. So red part of any animals generally consist of hymen. Okay, so these nitrogenous compound are found in petroleum. Petroleum means I am talking about natural oil and gas. So this is one direct evidence that the origin of petroleum is obviously or is certain that it's coming from plant and blood, plant and animals. Okay, so but both plant originated porphyrins occurs much more in the proportion than the animal originated porphyrins, but both are rapidly destroyed due to the oxidation. So as such, presence of porphyrin in petroleum basically indicates that the petroleum originates from animals or plants. We don't know, it could be from the animals or it could be from the plants. Okay, about 98%, third argument they have presented that the 98% of the oil produced commercially is from the sedimentary rock. You know what is a sedimentary rock? Sedimentary rock के बारे में पढ़े होंगे तुम लोग. 98% are commercially produced from the sedimentary rock, and which contain the vast amount of the organic matter, the producer of the carbon, hydrogen and hydrocarbons, and these constituents basically produced continuously by plants and animals during their life processes. So there is a chance in the sedimentary rocks, like sedimentary rocks are formed layer after layer. Okay, So there is wide chance that the sedimentary rock including several remains of the plants and animals. So most of the cases you will find your reservoir within 98% from the sedimentary rock. You read this in the last chapter. I have discussed it. Okay, so this could only be a possibility, or this could or this basically supports that theory that it has a organic origin. Another argument they have presented, they basically did the ratio. Carbon dating to मालूम ही होगा सबको. You know about the carbon dating to find out the age. There they basically consider the isotopes of C13 and C12, and from that ratio they can identify or they can understand at which age it developed. So as a regard of carbon content of the petroleum, the living organic matter contains 13C by 12C ratio similar to found in the petroleum. So living में 13C और C13 and C12 का जो ऐसा लिखते हैं, living में जो C13 and C12 का ratio है, which is similar with the petroleum, same. So by getting these similarities basically helps you to understand that no, the petroleum is basically derived from the organic remains. So some non-reservoir rocks like shales and carbonate contains the organic material with hydrocarbon. At times crude oil also contains some hydrocarbon indicating the close affinity of the organic materials of the petroleum. Okay. Now अभी जो डिस्कस किया वो था theory related to the beliefs of or origin of petroleum. Now let's discuss where you can actually found or where generally the petroleum found, in which places. So what are the place of origin? Have you heard of Bombay High? किसी को Bombay High के बारे में मालूम है? Did anyone know? क्या है वो? हाँ ONGC कर रहा है वहाँ पे बॉम्बे हाई पे बहुत दिन से कर रहा है. बॉम्बे हाई है क्या है ना, ये एक ऑफशोर, बॉम्बे हाई इज ए ऑफशोर बेसिन, यू कैन से. व्हाट इज ए बेसिन आई विल डिस्कस. बेसिन के ऊपर एक बड़ा क्लास होगा, लेकिन बॉम्बे हाई क्या है ना, एक ऑफशोर बेसिन है. मान लो कि शोर लाइन से 40 किलोमीटर्स इनसाइड द सी दे आर ड्रिलिंग इट एंड दे फाउंड ए ह्यूज रिजर्वायर देयर एंड दे आर ड्रिलिंग इट. बहुत दिन से वो लोग एक्सट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं ऑयल को. So most of the cases, most of the origin from this example, the point of giving you this example is that most of the cases there is no doubt that the place of origin of petroleum, you know what is the origin is sea, because sea is enormous, sea is vast, and there are several species are in the sea that in the sea it's called sea world. Okay, means there are several things we don't know about the sea or ocean. There are several geological or several marine biological subjects are there, like marine biology, marine geology. Those are there to understand the nature of the ocean. Oceanography is there. So then marine geology, one specialized topic is there. So sea is very vast topic, and there it contains several species, several animals, several plants, several planktons. Okay, so there is high chance that sea is also depositing sediments over the years in the basin. Constantly sea surface is eroding or accreting, or sometimes you might have heard or not, I don't know, but this is a common phenomena. Most of the cases, mostly in the east coast of India, the shoal line generally कभी कभी सामने चला जाता है, ओके, और कभी कभी ये पीछे चला जाता है. दैट मीन्स कभी कभी जो ओशन का वाटर होता है वो ज़्यादा हो जाता है, जैसे कि शोल लाइन यहाँ पे मूव कर गया, अब कम हो गया तो ये शोल लाइन इधर आ गया. ओके, सो कभी कभी क्या होता है, इरोशन, मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस इरोशन एंड एक्रीशन ये हमेशा चलता रहता है. दे आर इरोडिंग द बैंक्स, or they are eroding the shoal lines sometimes, or they are accreting at the shoal line, they are depositing sediments at the shoal line. So these things are common because sea or the ocean is very dynamic in nature. Okay, and it's constantly upgrading, it's constantly changing their landforms. So sea is a good place, or sea is a almost possible place. There is no doubt that is the place of origin of petroleum. So this is because the petroleum is mostly found in the sedimentary rocks deposited under sea. One point. And the place of origin is seashores region, particularly in those regions where the land meets the sea. And for example, where you can find this kind of what is the suitable place of petroleum origin. These are the shore and beach, flat region, tidal lagoon, and third one is the delta region. Okay, so these are the favorable place where petroleum can form. Okay, now let's discuss about the source material. इसका source क्या है, chemical composition उसका discuss करेंगे. Yes. Not all the basins are productive in a simple line. So there will be a class regarding the Indian basins. There will be seeing some basins are producing, some basins are not. Sundarban is a delta area, I totally agree with you. And till now, as far my knowledge, Sundarban is not producing any oil. Okay, so the Sundarban and this delta area is coming under the Bengal basin. And one more thing I should include here, that the basins, the tidal flat, and all I'm discussing at that is a favorable place of origin of petroleum. Now that's the favorable place. जब उसको origin होना था वो वहीं पे origin हो गया, लेकिन वो मतलब जब वो origin start हुआ था वहाँ पे वो था, मान लो कि वो डेल्टा था या वो था, लेकिन लैंडस्केप चेंज हो गया. Cut to million years after, what happened? The landscape changes. अभी उस जगह पे वो डेल्टा रहा ही नहीं. Maybe the changes is constant. Like the Himalayan, how Himalayan is developed. So people or the most common acceptable theory is that they are project is sea. Where is the sea now? वो sea है ही नहीं. अभी वो गायब है. वो हिमालय बन गया क्योंकि वो सेडिमेंट डिपॉजिट हो गया, देन प्लेट टेक्टोनिक की वजह से वो हिमालय बन गया. सो व्हाट यू आर सीइंग नाउ, अभी तुमको यहाँ पे बीच दिख गया और वहाँ पे खुदाई शुरू कर दोगे तो पेट्रोलियम नहीं मिलेगा. योर बेसिन शुड बी एंशिएंट. उसके लिए एक एज होता है, दैट एज कॉल्ड द प्रीकम्ब्रियन. I'll discuss all that. Okay, so Sundarban and this area is comes under the Bengal basin. And not recently, about a year back, ONGC constantly, because I did a training at the ONGC Majerat, okay, Kolkata. So it was a 2 weeks training, and there they were discussing several factors that they are understanding that there could be some possibility of having petroleum in the Bengal basin. That's why they are doing the exploration for past 15 years. Okay, so past 15 or 16 years they were doing the exploration in the Malda Murshidabad area, and recently they found, recently means around 7-8 months earlier, there was a news. सबा के वो उसका इनॉग्रेशन भी कर रहा था. ONGC has found a block, okay, where it can produce commercially available petroleum. Okay, so Bengal basin तो आज तक जितना तुम आगे बुक में पुराना बुक में पढ़ोगे तो उसको बोलोगे कि नॉन प्रोड्यूसिंग बेसिन है ये, लेकिन अभी प्रोड्यूस करना वो चालू किए हैं. द प्लेस कॉल्ड धर्मपुर, आई डोंट रिमेम्बर राइट नाउ. कहाँ पे? वो बहुत सारी जगह पे चल रहा है. मैं सारी कुछ चीज़ डिस्कस करूँगा, मैं उस पर आ रहा हूँ. मे बी इन यू नेक्स्ट क्लास ऑल डिस्कस ऑल दिस बेसिन्स एंड कहाँ कहाँ ये काम हो रहा है. पहले बेसिक समझ लो, उसके बाद उसके ओर चलते हैं, ठीक है ना. सो अब हम लोग बात करेंगे now we'll be discussing the source material of petroleum. So one general concept what you have, that petroleum generally developed from the animals. I'm talking about the source. किससे ये एक्चुअली डेवलप हो रहा है? केमिकल कॉम्पोजिशन क्या है, इसको क्या बोलते हैं. ओके, सो from the materials, from the remains of animals and plants, petroleum is originated. At one time it was believed that the crude oil originated from the protein. One time means in your school you have read that protein, basically protein से क्या आता है, oil, and natural gas is producing from, you are getting natural gas from the remains of the animals and remains of animals and plants. That was the common belief, but which has now the theories are new theories are emerged, and they have proved that this is not the case. The theory was later proved wrong. Okay, so it's now known that the various type of minute mineral, minute marine floating animal and plant organism known as plankton, and the main constituents which lead to the formation of the petroleum. So one theory is there that's called the plankton. Plankton basically contributing, plankton मर जाता है और उसको वो sediment के अंदर deposit दब के under pressure and temperature it basically produces, under pressure and temperature plankton क्या होता है, मर जाता है. उसके बाद वो pressure and temperature में it basically creates petroleum. ये होता है. So among these photosynthesizing microbes, algae like plants like moss and all take up the leading role in the formation of the petroleum. So plankton मान के चलते हैं हम लोग consider कर रहे हैं कि plankton is responsible for petroleum. Plankton died, sunk to the bottom, stored within the sediments, and under pressure and temperature it's creating petroleum. So in the Precambrian period, Precambrian period means Precambrian. Later I will also discuss what do you mean by Precambrian period, what is Jurassic period. So in Precambrian period, petroleum is known to exist in the Michigan, USA. Okay, and the main function of the photosynthesis is to produce glucose by adding the hydrogen removed from the water. So afterwards, with the help of microbes, hydrocarbon linked to the polysaccharides like starch and cellulose and others are produced. So the reaction are distinct from the following equation. Actually what happened, glucose add होता है and it basically creates or produce polysaccharide. So after this it happens in the Precambrian period. उससे young का जो period है वो है Mesozoic period. So after this let me I think I have पहले वो बता देता हूँ. ओके, मेरे पास अभी वो चार्ट नहीं है, मैं बाद में दिखा दूंगा क्या होता है, ये एरर्स क्या है. सो क्या होता है प्रीकैम्बियन पीरियड में, वो प्लैंकटन मर के वहाँ पे चला जाता है, फिर ग्लूकोज से पॉलीसेकेराइड बनता है, फिर और एक यंग एज में मेसोजोइक एरा में और दूसरा रिएक्शन डेवलप होता है. एंड इन द टर्शियरी टाइम वेरियस देन अदर टाइप ऑफ ऑर्गेनिज्म टाइटन्स एंड others became constituents for the formation of the petroleum. So far what we have learned that from the immature source, immature or from the plants remains we are having the petroleum. Now how the transformation of the remains of plants or animal becomes or leads to the petroleum, that will be discussed now. Okay, so transformation, write this down, this heading, transformation of the remain. ये कैसे बनता है प्लांट से, remains of plants from plants or animals, from animals to petroleum. So like the mosses which is float on things like the mosses or plankton or the algae mixed with other plants and animals, the organisms, leaves, pollens, and I mean the remaining of the plants and animals are after मतलब वो मर जाने के बाद they floated on the sea. So afterwards, countless millions of these organisms died and they sunk to the bottom. They sunk to the bottom of the ocean and they basically deposited here within the sedimentary rock. Most of the cases they deposited within the sedimentary rock of the sedimentary layer. Okay, and for hundreds and thousands of years, this type of accumulation continued over the sea floor. Millions of years, let's consider millions of years, it's continued and it's depositing on the sea floor. So obviously it will give you a load, it will give you the pressure. So this portion or this point will feel the maximum pressure. Okay, and the temperature changes will be also imminent. So these remains first were decomposed and they are sealed in the mud. Within the sedimentary layers they become okay. So इसके अंदर वो ट्रैप हो जाता है, इसके अंदर वो सील्ड हो जाता है within the sedimentary layers. So anaerobic bacteria acted upon the absence of air. There was perhaps some chemical interaction with the salt in converted the mud into the cell. So due to some reason, due to some chemical reaction, जो mud होता है, जो sediment होता है, जो finer grained sediment होता है, that becomes or they basically build cell layers. Okay, so the presence of water and its own weight actually converted, so the load will be there. इतना स्टोर हो रहा है, उसके ऊपर बस sea water है, above of which you have the sea water, which is basically giving you the load, and this load basically the presence of water and its own weight basically converting the mud, this mud or this cell, mud into cell, and the source material of oil was thus finally imprisoned. So what's happening here? Suppose there is a mud layer here and it's converted into cell, and in between them, in between the layers, there are several plant or animal remains. They will also be converted into the oil under the pressure and temperature. So due to the chemical reaction and action of microbes, the accumulated remains of the animals and plants were transformed into the brackish, gluey, compact mass. So they will generally convert into the, under this pressure or under this condition, blackish, gluey, compact mass में convert हो जाता है, and after that this glue like substance is called, ये बहुत ही important है इसलिए मैंने इसके मार्क किया, this called kerogen, not kerosene, kerogen. और kerogen is the basic fundamental elements of petroleum. ये किसको समझ में नहीं आया मुझे बताओ. Those who didn't understand this part, just let me know. उत्तियो समझ में आया? Did you get it? उत्तियो? It's very simple. Okay. Yes. Once more time. Let me simplify it. So what happened? What I told you that plants and animals remains, they basically form petroleum. But how? How the remains of the plants and animals transform from that organic body to the petroleum? First, what happened in the sea area? I have told you the most favorable place of origin of petroleum, or most of the cases, or almost all the cases, will find petroleum in the petroleum has a sea origin. Okay, so ऐसे sea layer रहेगा, sea water रहेगा. So what happened? These plants and masses, they are depositing over the years, over million years, thousands years, couple of thousands years. Okay, they are depositing layer after layer within the sediments, and they are mud layer also. Okay, mud is a fine grained sediment layer, and under some chemical reaction and the pressure, and which the pressure is coming from this load. Okay, this huge sediment load, just like sedimentary rocks are formed, and this water load, both are giving you the pressure, and this pressure is creating a compact sedimentary rock. another thing is happening sidewise, that the mud is converting due to some chemical reaction under pressure and temperature, it is converting to the shell. So most of the cases you will find the reservoir within the shell. So क्या होता है, within the shell the plants remains got entrapped, okay, and under pressure and temperature it basically creates mud becomes shell. Simultaneously you will find that the remains are becoming a blackish gluey compact mass. This is called the kerogen, and it's the fundamental element for, this is the fundamental composition of fundamental chemical for petroleum, you can say. Now whatever I will be discussing from now on, I will be discussing with respect to kerogen. कि kerogen का ये, kerogen का वो. Got it? Now maturity of the petroleum. Yes. So kerogen तक याद रखना.